In the previous video, we went over how to pair the device. Let's dive a little bit further into troubleshooting the device. So at the end of the previous video, I did go over some ways to troubleshoot it. But another thing to do, and it never hurts just to elaborate on that. So if you look at the manual here, in the instructions, there's a method to go about and to edit. So the biggest thing there is make sure that the battery is properly installed. And you can take a multimeter, make sure it's at that 3.6 volts. Make sure that the Bluetooth is enabled on the phone or the tablet that you're using. So you'll see in the upper right hand corner, if it's gray, that means that at least it's enabled. And then when it's solid in color, then you will be able to tell that it's made a connection. Now, if you ever see where it's fading from gray and then solid in color, solid black in color, then you'll know that it's intermittent, and then you can go through and do a couple of these different things that we're going to go over here. So the next thing is the Bluetooth icon is visible, status bar across the top. Moving on. Your Libra device is selected from a list of pairs settings in there. So the biggest thing is make sure you don't have any other devices paired in that settings menu. So if you have multiple grain carts paired in there, that would probably not make a whole lot of sense. So you want to delete all those other connections. So once you pair the device, you shouldn't have to repair it each time. So there's a bigger difference between actually connecting to the device and pairing. Also, make sure, when we'll go over this, make sure that the remote mode is disabled. If the remote mode is turned on and then you try to connect up to it as in the main mode, well, it's connected, but it's actually in remote mode, so it won't actively record any information. So make sure that that isn't the case. And make sure also that you don't have any other devices that are taking over as the main display. So if I have my phone, make sure that my phone, or I would make sure that my phone is in remote mode, and then the main mode on the iPad was in the regular mode. So we'll go through, and you can see where I talk about what we did in the previous video as far as swiping left and hitting delete. Well, now we'll dive into this and take a look at that. Okay. So if we look at so we're paired, and that's what that check mark means, is that we're connected there. But if I take and disconnect, we'll look at that main display, we'll have dashes across there. And the biggest thing here is we're looking in the upper right hand corner. It says that my Bluetooth device is active or it is working. So if you have a bad cable somewhere, then we need to look at the cable. But that would be more or less when it's not communicating from scale to your Bluetooth box. We'll go over that more in a previous video. A couple things to rule that out. So we go back into our settings. Let's just make sure that we're connected there. We'll tap on that row is all I'm doing there. Then I'll go back to the display and the weight shows back up. I don't need to do anything else. Let's say I disconnect and then I don't know exactly, or I'm not comfortable with what I'm doing, and I hit the plus key and I try to pair again. So we already have a paired device. I'm going to pair again. We'll see what happens here. So it did not find any new devices because I'm already paired. So the biggest thing there is you wouldn't want to repair again. You would just go ahead and tap on the row, and then it will connect it back up. I'll go to display, so it connects up a little bit. Okay. And then we're good to go there. If I go to the settings, and let's say that I've tried everything and it's just not connecting, and another thing that you can do is hit the delete button here, and I'm just swiping across here. I'm not tapping on the row or anything like that. I don't hit the info button. If I hit the info button, it brings up all those other settings. Well, that's not where I want to be. I'm just swiping left on this display here, and then I will hit delete. And then I will add the device back in. And then I can just name it again. And that's making sure I'm within arm's reach of the box. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that again. Swipe over and hit delete. And then push plus. To pair again. Okay, so one more layer. Let's say that none of this is working whatsoever. The next thing that you want to do is look at the on the inside of your box and make sure there is no moisture on the inside. So that's why in that previous video we made sure that we want to make sure that we mount it in a place that's not going to take in moisture. And then also on the box, make sure that you don't get a bow in the middle. Make sure all 4 screws are tightened down with that gasket going all the way around, so that way it's pretty well sealed up. But if you get a bow in the middle, sometimes it can take water in on both sides. So the biggest thing there is just make sure you have that tightly secured. Let's say if it does not take, another thing that you can do is go into your settings of the actual iPad. You can go to your Bluetooth devices and you turn the Bluetooth off. You can turn the Bluetooth back on. Another thing that I like to do is also I like to power the unit down. So I could power it down. And then power it back on again. Once you've powered back on the unit, go into your settings menu. And I might start out fresh here. That might be the way to do it here. Push delete. Push the plus button in the upper left-hand corner. And then once it is successfully paired, go ahead name it and go from there. So if none of these methods work, then we would probably look to the box and there would be a malfunction at that point, because the Bluetooth should work. A lot of times if you get a new unit and it does not work, check the iPad, make sure it is at least an iPad 3 or above. If it is older than that, it will simply not pair. So the biggest thing there, and I have had a few experiences with the iPad actually with the Bluetooth radio not working, and so what we've had to do in that case is look at just replacing the iPad and getting a different one. And it was on one that was current. It's just that for some reason that portion of the iPad malfunctioned. And so that is one possibility that can happen. It's very remote, but it is one scenario. So in the next video, we'll go over some more things with just moving on to the process of getting started and taking a look at the configuration and how to get your iPad set up with the app.